She's got long legs and short shorts, but she ain't got no teeth. She wears a red bandana on her head and she smiles so sweet. She'll steal your heart at their first sight, should rip apart your soul. She'll torture your mind and waste your time and drag you down the road, 'cause she's a Jezebel, St. Andrew Jezebel, 'cause she's a Jezebel, St. Andrew Jezebel.
Hey y'all, this is Ashley Feller, and you're listening to the St. Andrews Jezebel podcast. This is the show that shares and celebrates weekly happenings in the music and art community and explores the best places to shop, relax, dine, and enjoy St. Andrews. For this week, I'll be sharing music and community events for the upcoming weekend of April 2nd through 4th. I'll also be including some information on the upcoming events like Salty Cat Day. And this show also focuses on telling the stories of the locals here in St. Andrews. Some are business owners, some are artists, and some of them might even be your next door neighbor who might wear a lot of hats. So if you're a salty local and you're interested in being on the show, please DM the podcast on Facebook or send me an email at ashley.feller@gmail.com. This week, we've got Tyler James, who is a local musician who relocated here in recent years with his family and performs regularly in St. Andrews and other parts of Bay County. Did any of my listeners attend Bay High? Because I did. If you are a Bay High alumni, you might enjoy this week's old news segment. This one comes from the Panama City Pilot, and it was published in March of 1934, and it announces the Miss Bay High for that year. It's been so hot, y'all. I have been sweating myself to death. I am ready for the cool weather to come back, but I don't think that'll be happening anytime soon. So if you're like me, get your favorite beer, sweet tea, a glass of water, anything you need to stay hydrated, and enjoy the show. St. Andrews is a fantastic place to experience live music. This weekend, start your Friday night off right with Class Act at the Shrimp Boat starting at 5 p.m. This would be a good choice if you enjoy different types of jazz and seafood. Los Antojitos has music every Friday night and great margaritas, but I didn't see any information about who may be playing. Check out the Salty Sounds in St. Andrews Facebook page. There may be more updates by the weekend. Phil Nolan will be at Little Village this Friday night at 6 p.m., so there's a great opportunity to gather up your friends for some music, cold beers, and tacos. Or, if you're feeling fancy, promenade down to Alice's for a gorgeous dining experience and enjoy the smooth sounds of Too Saxy also at 6 p.m. The Tap Room usually has music on Friday nights around 6, but I wasn't able to find any info on Ken's page, Salty Sounds in St. Andrews. There may be more updates as the weekend approaches. If you haven't heard John Cannon, then you're in for a treat because he is playing at Uncle Ernie's this Friday night at 7 p.m. Scratch 2020 is upstairs at the House of Bourbon starting at 7 p.m. And closing out your evening is Casey and Dave in the courtyard at the Salty Hobo starting at 9. The market at St. Andrews is every Saturday morning and opens in the lot next to the Shrimp Boat. There are a number of wonderful arts and crafts vendors, food trucks, and live music brought to you by Floriopolis that begins at 10 a.m. This week, the featured musician is Brandon Rowell. By the way, the market is always looking for different musicians, so if you're interested in performing, please send an email to ashley.feller@gmail.com, or you can always private message the podcast. Little Village is having so much music this Saturday, y'all. I thought it might be best to tell you all about the music they're having this Saturday first before I get into the rest of Saturday and the other venues. First, Tyler and Sandy will start playing at Little Village at noon, and then Chris Wade plays from 3 to 6. Then the Tim Muth Life Blast will be from 6 to 9, and this will be a musical celebration of life for Tim Muth, who was the brother of Pat Muth and the uncle of Brian Muth, who are both musicians in this community. He unfortunately passed away shortly after a house fire last December. More information on that in the community events segment. The music for the event will feature Greg Jett, Pat Muth, Brian Muth, Al Croce, and some other guests. Tim Muth was passionate about music, so I find it just awesome that the community is coming together to celebrate his life. Class Act will be back at the Shrimp Boat starting at 5 p.m. Then George Allen is at Alice's at 6 p.m. One of my most favorite local musicians, Jay Smith, is singing for you up on the beautiful deck at Uncle Ernie's this Saturday night at 7 p.m. So if y'all are overdue for a date night, take your special someone out for a delicious meal and listen to unforgettable music by talented Jay Smith. I hear the view isn't bad either. If you need to dance, and I think most of us do, then strut your stuff up to the House of Bourbon to dance to the music of True Soul starting at 7 p.m. Where's My Night Owls? Are you ready? Because this week, I am playing in the courtyard at the Salty Hobo starting at 9 p.m. I am so excited to be playing my homegrown tunes for y'all and plenty of your old favorites as well in the courtyard at the Salty Hobo at 9 p.m. So come by. I hope you come by and say hi. I feel like Sunday is the best day of the week. It's reflective, it's a laid-back day, it's your chance to have some fun and enjoy yourself and your loved ones before the grind starts again. This is also Easter Sunday, so put on your bonnet because there's so many brunch options this Sunday. Alice's on Bayview has brunch at 10:30 a.m. with music by Too Saxy, and then the new venue, Locals Only, has brunch at 11 a.m. and they're featuring music by Skint Up. And Bergen Barrel also has brunch at 11 a.m. with music by Jumbled Juke. If you missed Jay Smith Saturday night, then you are so fortunate because he's back at Uncle Ernie's playing this Sunday night at 7 p.m. This concludes the music events for the upcoming weekend of April 2nd through 4th. Special thanks to Ken Schaefer, who is the admin for Salty Sounds in St. Andrews and Oh Boy Music on Facebook. I appreciate you for providing a comprehensive guide that helps locals find out where all the music is in Panama City. Thank you so much for everything you do. So last Wednesday, I was so lucky to spend the day in St. Andrews. After I recorded the interview segment with Tyler James, I walked down to Gypsy Beach Treasured Creations to look around and experience the treasures firsthand, because I should mention that Kathy from Gypsy Beach will be on the podcast next week, and also our special guest Tyler James' wife, Kelsey, showcases her art and jewelry at Gypsy Beach. After my adventures at Gypsy Beach, I decided to take the walking tour with Ellen at the Panama City Publishing Museum. Ellen leads this tour every Wednesday and Friday at 1 p.m., and the tour starts inside the printing museum in the office of Mr. and Mrs. West. With a couple of exceptions, everything in the office is original, down to the typewriter and Mrs. West's spectacles and the partner desk. It was really something to see, y'all. The architecture of the room, the safe that Ellen said they would probably never get open again. It really was a moving experience to me to stand in Mr. and Mrs. West's office and learn the history about that building, and particularly the partner desk and their relationship over time. The tour continues across Beck Avenue and then down Bayview Avenue. This was a real learning experience. I grew up in St. Andrews, and so did my recently departed maternal grandmother, but I never knew that in the early days of St. Andrews, most of the buildings were situated where the multi-story condo is now. And if I remember right, Ellen said that this was where Ware's Mercantile was. But growing up here, I remember it as the Ramada Inn and the Harbor House. Does anybody remember the salad dressing from the Harbor House? It was really good. If you listened last week, you might remember me mentioning a beautification project happening at Villa Gateway Park. Well, Ellen pointed this out on the tour, and it's the small piece of land with a couple of curvy pink benches in between the Shrimp Boat and Uncle Ernie's, or actually I should say Barefoot on the Bay. The tour usually ends at Oaks by the Bay Park, but because of the rain, the tour was cut short at the gazebos on Bayview Avenue. So I'll be taking the tour again on a sunnier day, and I recommend that you do too, because it is a wonderful experience and I cannot wait to do it again. This Saturday, bring your little ones to Oakland Terrace Park for the 10th annual Easter egg hunt at 9 a.m. There will also be a special needs egg hunt to follow at 10 a.m. And I'm looking at the flyer now, and I can see there's also ice cream provided by the Optimist Club, arts and crafts, balloon animals, and even a chicken dance. Now that sounds like a good time, y'all. Check out the Crew of St. Andrews Facebook page for the full schedule, and I'll make sure to link it in the comments. Be honest, do you know how to do the boot scoot and boogie? How about the electric slide? Practice your grapevine step while line dancing with Janine at House of Bourbon every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Or if ballroom dancing's more your style, then you're in luck because Dance 850 with Mandy is now offering ballroom dance lessons at the Tap Room. There's 3 different tiers of lessons, and they each have different prices. You must call for a reservation. Check out Dance 850 on Facebook, or you can call 615-975-5555 for more details on class schedules and pricing. Tim Mute's Life Blast will be held April 3rd, 2021 at Little Village in St. Andrews, Florida from 6 to 9 p.m. A fire destroyed Tim Mute's house on December 14th, 2020, and somehow Tim did not make it out of the house. He was airlifted to Augusta, Georgia, where he died 2 days later. Tim was one of the first state-certified plumbers in the state of Florida and spent 54 years in the plumbing service industry. Tim loved all water sports and was an expert sailor and spear fisherman, especially mullet. Tim was active in music starting in his teens and throughout his life. He was an excellent singer, songwriter, and performer, and he played the bass, mandolin, and the violin. He taught and influenced many young and aspiring musicians on these instruments, and he recorded a handful of songs, and a CD of these songs will be available at the gathering. Musicians playing will be Pat Muth, Brian Muth, Tom Collins, Greg Jett, Al Croce, and others. All are welcome to join us for this night of good memories and good music. Are you looking for something to do with the kids? The Kid Town Hall is this Saturday at 2 p.m. at Sweet Feed on Beck, and the first 25 kids receive a free froyo. This is super important, St. Andrews folks. Voting day is April 20th. Early voting begins April the 12th. Read up on your local candidates so you can make an educated vote on who you think will serve our salty spirit best as Ward 4 Commissioner. Gypsy Life Wellness on Beck has 4 classes a week for you to choose from. On Monday at 6 p.m., there is a CBD flow class. On Wednesday at 6, they have Pints and Poses yoga. And if you're up on a Thursday morning, there is a 9 a.m. hot yoga class offered. And finally, if you missed Pints and Poses on Wednesday, you get a second chance Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Gypsy Life Wellness is right next to the tap room in the Asbel building. The songbirds are going up on Janie's fence today. Make sure to look for them this weekend when you come down to keep St. Andrews salty. Let's not forget, Salty Cat Day is coming up April 24th at the market at St. Andrews. I am so excited, y'all. This event is looking for sponsors. Looking at the event page, I see that there are a few different sponsorship tiers. I recommend visiting their Facebook page for more details. The event is also seeking raffle and auction items, and all these donations are tax deductible. Message the Salty Cat Day event page for more information on how you can drop off your donations. One last thing. Make sure you register your cat for the Salty Kitty Committee. It's a $1 donation per vote. I just registered my 2 kitties, so make sure you send a vote in for Andy and Kensington. When you register your cat and encourage people to vote for your cat, it's not just humorous, but it's an effort to help the Salty Cat Rescue of St. Andrews continue to do all the great rescue work that they do, and you can vote more than once. You don't have to be registered to vote to participate in the cat contest. We encourage all registered nominees to attend the ceremony at the market on April 24th at noon. Voting is now open. You can cast your vote on saltycatday.com. That's all for the community events this week, y'all. Thank you so much, and tune in next week for more. I am so blessed to share this interview segment with y'all. This week, our guest is Tyler James, who relocated here from Monroe, Louisiana with his family and now plays regularly in the Bay County area and beyond. It was great to talk with another working musician and learn about his experiences making a living in this extremely challenging field. Tyler and Jordan Shepard will be playing for you at the Little Village this coming Tuesday, April 6th at 6 p.m. Make sure you go and experience the music he plays. Let him know you heard about it on the St. Andrews Jezebel podcast. Good morning. This is Ashley with the St. Andrews Jezebel podcast. I'm here today with Tyler James at Floriopolis. Thank you so much for being here today, Tyler. It's my understanding that you relocated to Bay County, most recently from Monroe, Louisiana. How did you and your family find yourselves here? And what's it like to work in the music community when you came here?
Well, I came here from Monroe. That's where I grew up, in Monroe, Louisiana. But I worked in marketing, always played music on the side. But when I had started having kids, got into marketing. And so the short story is I got headhunted by one company to head up their marketing. And in the midst of the transition, they were bought by a larger company. And they put me into a completely different position when I came down here and then quit because that's not what I wanted to do. And at the urging of my wife, actually, she encouraged me to just quit and go for playing music full time. And so it was interesting when I first got into the industry down here. I had seen things that were completely different than what I was used to in Louisiana, like the weekly gigs, a venue booking somebody like you're here every Friday night for 6 months. That's new to me. I guess there wasn't as many venues around where I grew up, but it was always a different band or different group every night playing. You never had somebody there every week. So that was an interesting hurdle, I guess, for me to have to overcome, because realizing once the season starts, like 90% of the venues at that time were completely booked for 6 months, and then you weren't going to work. So it was tough. Now, that was 5 years ago when I moved here. But now it's a lot better. There's a lot more venues that are booking more people, more different acts every night and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot more opportunity to work. So it's great for people like me and you as well to be able to play music and make money.
Absolutely. This is a great place to play music and make money. So what's your experience like now that you've made the transition to mainly playing music for a living? What kind of challenges do you currently face that you wish others were more aware of?
So I would start with the negatives of it. I mean, it's hard work. I don't think a lot of even the venues understand, and the musicians that are getting into it. It's not just, here's a guitar and I'm going to play for a couple of hours and noodle around, there's
a lot more to it than that.
Yeah. There's a ton of prep work that goes into it where you got to learn 3 hours of material. And that's, if you're not like me, where I use a looper pedal and I can really stretch songs out by playing lead parts over my loops that I've done, you got to play 3 hours worth of 3.5 minute songs. I mean, that's a lot of music to learn to not repeat songs too, So I would say, the hard work, setting up, tearing down all the gear, the maintenance on the gear. My wife pointed that out to me the other day about how much time that takes up when I'm at home, cleaning everything, maintaining, making sure everything's working properly. Cases are falling apart, so you're having to repair them. I mean, I play, 6 days a week most weeks. So, that's, a lot of wear and tear on all of my gear. So it does take a lot of maintenance work. And on top of that, I build a lot of my own stuff. So my cases and things like that. So when they start to, inevitably fall apart, because I'm not the greatest craftsman, I got to fix that. That's a repair job that's got to be done, things like that. So yeah, definitely the hard work that's involved. It can be extremely unfair. It can be stressful. It can be gut wrenching. It can be awful at times, honestly. You can be up on stage, and I'm sure you've experienced this, and you pour everything into a song. I mean, just your eyes are closed the whole time, and you're just, look, my hair's standing up thinking about that moment, you know, when you're just got everything going in putting everything into this song, and you finish and you look up and everybody's just eating,
I know that moment.
And you're like, it's just, that's like the hardest part, I think, for me anyway. And not that I need the recognition. As I tell people, I'm playing for me. If somebody else likes it, that's awesome. I'm glad, but it is tough when you have one of those songs like that where you just get lost in it for a while, and you really felt like you just really played the crap out of that song and then you get nothing at the end of it. It's pretty tough. But on the flip side of all that, it's amazing. You know, it is, once you can learn to overcome those moments and figure out how to streamline your process of setting up, and you get that base of songs and then you're just adding a few here and there, it becomes a machine at that point, and it becomes easier. And then you can sit back and, I mean, the best thing about it is, like, most people, what do they say when they're going to their job? Oh, I have to go to work, right? What do we say? I'm going to play, you know, and just that, I think just saying those words interchangeably, that has an effect on our minds. You know, the words we say always have an effect on us, whether we know it or not. And when you say work versus play, you're going to go to that kind of, you know, negative kind of state. It's work. It's not fun, you know. But when you say I'm going to play, it's exciting, man. I'm not going to work. I'm going to play. It's a totally different mindset going into it. So it's an amazing thing. And hell, I get paid to drink beer and play guitar. I mean, what's better than that?
That's living the dream right there.
Right.
And thinking back to what you just said just a moment ago about, you know, the maintaining of the equipment, the moving of the equipment, the setup, the teardown. My good friend Kenny Oliverio, may he rest in peace, he always used to say, this is the part we get paid for. The music's free.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's what I tell a lot of the venues, too. It's like, no. You don't pay me to play. I do that for tips. That's the fun part. You pay me to get my gear out of that trailer, load it up, set it up, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So what is your favorite part about playing in St. Andrews specifically? And do you have anything coming up in this area?
Yeah, so I love playing in St. Andrews because it's just a nice, like an artsy area, you know. When my wife and kids and I first moved down here, first time we came to St. Andrews, we came to Little Village, and Melissa Bowman was playing.
Oh, yeah.
And I went and she got done playing, and I asked her if she needed anybody to play percussion. I played drums in the bands I was with in Louisiana. When I moved here, that's what I was planning on doing at first. So I asked Melissa, hey, do you need a percussionist to sit in with you every now and then? Like, I just moved here, want to get into playing. And she said, well, she was pregnant with Bowie at the time, and she wasn't even showing yet. And, you know, she says, well, I'm going to be slowing down on playing, but my husband wants to get into playing, Sam Weigel. Mm-hmm. So Sam and I started playing around here, and all because of Little Village. And then from there, I mean, those two helped me get into most of the venues that I started playing at. So when I was able to go full time, it was all because of them. So that's why I love St. Andrews, because this is where my music career for this area started. And now, you know, I'm able to support a family of 5 playing music. So that's why I love St. Andrews. And yes, I will be at the Little Village with a very good friend of mine. I don't think I have told Manya or the ladies at Little Village this yet, but my very good friend Jordan Shepard from Louisiana is going to be in town. He is doing a run. He's playing in Augusta, Georgia, and then he's playing a couple of nights up in Muscle Shoals. And so I managed to convince him to come down here in between. And so he's going to come and do a couple of shows with me, and one of those will be at Little Village, and that is Tuesday, April 6th. So at the time this airs, this coming up Tuesday, Jordan's going to be sitting in. So definitely check out his music. He's on YouTube. You can look up Jordan Shepard Music. You can find him on Facebook, Spotify. He's got a lot of original stuff out, but he is a fantastic songwriter, a fantastic musician, singer. His wife, Stacy, is also a beautiful singer, and they do a lot of stuff together as well. So very excited to have Jordan. He's going to be sitting in, like I said, April 6th at Little Village, where we will start at 6 o'clock that night.
That's awesome. So besides that, is there anything new and exciting coming up? Any unique opportunities on the rise? Are you releasing any music, and how soon? And when it is out, where can we find it?
Before COVID started, I was working on an album, and then of course as that happened, that kind of put things on a halt for a little bit. But as I've gotten some new equipment at the house now, I'm going to be digging back into that very soon. So I may put out, you know, maybe just do one song at a time. I do have a couple of them that are close to being finished. So I would say just keep an eye on the social media, Facebook. You can go, if you're on your desktop, facebook.com/TylerJamesRocks. And at Tyler James Rocks on Instagram. Right now is the time that we're recording this. I'm leaving tomorrow to go to Key Largo to go play some shows down there. A good friend of mine, Alex Caldwell, who I met up here actually, and he got me a couple of shows down there. So I'm going to go down and play at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and Sharky's Shark Bite Grill down on Key Largo Friday and Saturday night. And then I have got a nice private party to play up outside of Miami up there on Sunday. So by the time this airs, I will just be getting back from that trip. But that's going to be exciting. That's going to be fun. I really want to get my feet wet down there. So maybe I can book a longer stint of shows and bring my family down and go have a nice little vacation while I go and play a few shows down in the Keys.
Well, that sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear about that. Maybe we'll have you back when you get back sometime in the next quarter and you could tell us about that. Also, another good place to stop along the way is Dunedin, Florida. It's near St. Pete. Do you remember Brees? Did you ever meet Brees Matarazzo?
I don't think so.
Well, he was a local guy and they relocated down there, but I play down there in Dunedin every once in a while, and it's a lot like St. Andrews. I tell everybody who loves and visits St. Andrews, they need to visit Dunedin because it's very similar.
Yeah.
And they have a place that's called Woodwright Brewing Company, and it's a brewery and a wood shop.
Nice.
They work with saws and they brew beer.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like that's my house. That's what I do in my backwood shed.
Well, maybe it's in the stars that maybe you should play there. I can get you the contact information.
Yes,
So if you could put together a band of any musicians, be they living or dead, famous or unknown, who would they be and why?
You know, you sent me these questions and I read over this and I was like, I couldn't even put down, because I would be torn between like all the greats of being able to jam with like Stevie Ray Vaughan or like Albert King or guys like that. But at the same time, I would want like, my friends, my buddies, my good buddies, that we just have that connection on stage together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be a huge conglomerate of like, it would just end up being a 30-piece band. You know what I mean? There would be like 8 drummers. And so I think that list would just be incredibly long. But yeah, a few off the top, you'd have to have John Bonham on drums with you because he was the best. Yeah, he was my favorite. But also Keith Moon, because I think the two of them having like a Grateful Dead style, double drum thing would just be insane. It would be a lot of fun.
All you need is Mickey Hart.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it would get intense. I'm thinking probably Stanley Clarke for bass, because that would just be, that'd be fun. You could let him riff off by himself for like 20 minutes and just go walk off and have a smoke and come back. I wouldn't want to get too good at guitar players because then they would overshadow me, and that's not how this works. No, of course I would have to have some of the greats in there. But, like I said, if a dream band for me would really just be a lot of friends, hanging out on a fun stage with a fun crowd and jamming. That's it.
Absolutely, me too. There's a lot of folks that I wish were still around that I could play music with that I miss dearly. Mm-hmm. So with this fantasy band, if you could play any venue in the world, which one would it be and why?
So lately, I've been watching. So I've been getting more into YouTube, okay? And this is going to go somewhere, I promise. I never got on YouTube, but my friend was introduced me to being able to watch concerts on YouTube. I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea. So I've been watching a lot of concerts, and I've been seeing, of course, a lot of stuff at Red Rocks. That would just be amazing. I would love to play at Red Rocks. That would be the venue, I think.
That's my answer too.
Is it?
Yeah. I actually stole these questions from Melissa Joyner, who has a new YouTube show, which is amazing. And she asked that question, and the first thought that came to my mind was it would be Red Rocks.
Red Rocks, yeah. Mm-hmm. Why not? I mean, it's just a cool, unique venue. I would love to play there.
Yeah. So what piece of gear can you not function without, other than, of course, a guitar and a microphone?
I guess trying not to sound, conceited, but I mean, it's like after a while you learn, I mean, you know how it is, you run into problems where everything breaks at some point,
yes,
and you just have to learn to roll with it. I mean, of course, like you need your PA system. I would say though, my looper pedal is pretty integral to my set. As I'd mentioned earlier, I mean, without it, I can't do my lead parts and layer and make it sound like the full band the way that I do, layering the drum parts and all that stuff on top of it. So I think the looper pedal is kind of integral to my sound and my show and what I do. So it's tough without it. It can be done, but it's definitely not a pleasant thing for me.
It definitely helps with stretching those songs out. I haven't quite got the confidence to use my looper in public.
Yeah.
But I could see where like, oh man, I could like stretch these songs out because I play pretty peppy and that song goes by pretty quick.
Oh yeah. And you could even pull out your penny whistle or, your flute or something and add solos because, I add my harmonica in a lot of times too.
Yeah. That's a great idea. So how would you describe the music that you play and who or what inspired you to play your particular brand of music?
I guess the closest thing I always say is soul music because I like music that's got soul to it, So I guess my description of soul music is maybe different than what the genre would say, although there's great music in there, don't get me wrong, and that's a lot of what I do. But swamp rock, swamp soul, because I think I like to put a little kind of dirtier spin on the soul side of things. I got a bit of a grittier voice and then the heavier guitar solos and things like that. But as far as inspiration goes, growing up in Northeast Louisiana, I felt like I was lucky to grow up there. I still feel that way. I feel like I was lucky to grow up there because, we get a lot of flack, especially down here. There's a lot of people from South Louisiana that have migrated over to Bay County. And, you hear a lot of people say, oh, if you're from north of I-10, you're not from Louisiana. And I say, well, so my birth certificate says that's where I'm from. But the great thing about that is that I think that they're jealous, right? Mm-hmm. Because I love South Louisiana. Don't get me wrong. New Orleans is like my favorite city in the world. There's nothing that I don't like. But you've got that culture down there, right? And that's the culture that's there. Well, we have a little bit of that culture in Northeast Louisiana. So by way, we get some of that music up there. We get, some of the country music coming in from Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. We get the rock and roll coming out of Memphis. We get the boogie blues coming out of East Texas in the Shreveport area and all that. So we are really so much more of a gumbo of music and culture in that area because you've got Highway 165 that runs north and south through there, and then I-20 runs through east and west through Monroe from Atlanta all the way to El Paso. So you have a ton of different types of people that came through there. I got to see great musicians growing up as a kid at felt like I remember seeing Aaron Neville.
Wow.
Just in a park downtown growing up at a free festival, and it was amazing. And like that, I would say that was a moment that I was like, I want to do that again. Just such a mix, and I think that shows in the way that I play because I do go from just kind of dirty, more simple blues stuff to a more technical, jazzier style of playing where I'm getting into different modes and different styles of technique and all that. And so it goes across the board. But the person I would say that I would definitely have to give credit to really got me to want to play was my uncle growing up, my mom's youngest brother, JJ. He lived next door to us when I was a kid, and he was the only other musician in the family. He played lead guitar in metal bands, in the 90s and in early 2000s. So he had a big Marshall half stack, and his I think he had a Jackson guitar, electric guitar. But I was a little kid, and I'd be outside playing, and his music room was at the front room of the house, and I'd be in the front yard playing, and I'd hear that amp crank up. And I'd just run it. I wouldn't even knock. I'd just go straight in, and I would go sit down, and I'd listen to him play. And I would just shout songs out at him, and he would play them. He could just do it. And I just remember having the biggest grin on my face and just like laughing, giggling about it the whole time, like physically laughing just because it was just so awesome, And so he taught me a couple of things on guitar, and then I just kind of went from there. And I got the bug, I loved, it was just so neat to me, like that you could make those kind of sounds with your fingers. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It was just I'm trying to think how old, I must have been, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years old, somewhere in there. But yeah, it was just the neatest thing to me. That's like, man, he can play anything I had heard on the radio. I could hum it to him and he would start playing it. And I would just be like, whoa, like that's just cool that you could do that. So yeah, that's what really, I think, pushed me to want to do that, I want to make sounds. I think that's cool.
I love that. I love it. And your playing reminds me somewhat of Warren Haynes.
Oh, well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I definitely need to work on my slide skills. I haven't done that much. Not much of that.
So, what advice would you give to young musicians out there who are still learning their way and trying to find their way as young budding musicians?
I would say don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid of songs in general. I don't mean like difficult songs. I mean songs that like embarrassing songs. You know what I mean? Like some songs you're like, man, I kind of want to learn that, but like
Guilty pleasure songs.
Right, yeah.
I have those. Yeah.
Right. Don't be afraid to do that kind of stuff because it's all about finding your way and it's all about finding your sound as a musician. I mean, who knows? Maybe you may be a pop artist, trying to be a blues artist, but play some of that stuff and see, and you never know where that may take you. So don't be afraid to learn songs and always keep learning new songs because there's neat little riffs and there's neat chord progressions and there's all kinds of stuff that you can take from learning new songs. So always remember, I think that's an integral part of writing is learning other people's songs as well, not to steal from them or anything like that, but just, to open your mind up a little bit more. And like I said, I mean, you may hear a neat little chord progression or just a weird chord that you'd never heard of before. And man, that one chord could inspire you to do something. And don't be afraid to just do it. That's the other thing. I got told that I could not support a family playing music. When my wife was pregnant with my oldest daughter, who's now 10 years old. That's why I went into marketing. And that was tough for me for a long time because I still played. I had to play. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a question of that. So I worked myself to the bone for a marketing company. I was an account executive for a television station. And I worked really hard for them, 40, 50 hours a week. And then I would go to band practice one night a week. And then I would go play shows on the weekends. And so, I missed a lot, I feel like, of my daughter, of her early life because of work and my need to play, which is a selfish thing at the end of the day. And then on top of that, I was stressed out and I was unhappy doing what I was doing. And so when I was at home, I wasn't pleasant to be around, and that's the honest truth of it. And if I would have known that long ago, that I could do that was only with one kid. That was when I had one kid that I thought that I couldn't support a family playing music. Now I have three children, and man, it's awesome.
That's amazing. And with you having this family, how do you balance your work life with being a father, being a husband, having a home?
That's a tough one too, because, we homeschool our kids. And so we do have a lot of time together, but, we live in the Cove over here, and we did take some damage in Hurricane Michael, and we're still rebuilding our house currently. And so it is a balancing act to try to make progress on the house, do what the kids need, do with their schooling. So generally our day starts off like right now, the kids are doing their schoolwork. My youngest is probably watching Sesame Street, but the other two are doing their schoolwork right now. Or my wife is reading to them. And then once they're done with that, if it doesn't rain, the door will be opened and the kids will have to go outside to play while my wife and I will be doing some work on the house. And then a couple hours, I'll have to stop and start getting ready to go to a show that I have tonight. And then when I get done with that, so then my wife has to continue the day on without me getting the kids to where they need to go, dance, aerial, jujitsu, all the things that the kids have while I'm playing. And then she'll feed them, get them to bed. I get home. Hopefully she's still awake and we get a little time, maybe an hour to watch an episode together before we go to bed. So that's our balancing act on a normal work day. It's tough. Like I said in the beginning of this, it's not an easy job.
Right.
There's so much more to it than just walking on stage and playing.
Absolutely.
So it is tough, but it's incredibly rewarding. The time that I get with my family and the time that I get on stage to do what I love, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, you couldn't give me enough money to stop doing it. Right now, anyway. We'll see how that goes in 5 years, but for right now, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
So I also hear that your wife, Kelsey, is an artist and she has art that's here and available in St. Andrews. Can you tell me a little bit about her and the art she creates and where folks can find it?
Yeah. So my wife does some awesome artwork. It's funny, she started but when we were in Louisiana doing like furniture and stuff. She would paint this like super funky, really cool furniture, and like people just wouldn't buy it there. It was so funny. Like everybody just wanted like white, and they would ask her all the time, could you just do like a whitewash or something? And I'm like, she would have these cool hand painted like peacock feathers going along this table leg, like really neat looking stuff, which is now everybody is all about. But at the time, nobody wanted that. It was so funny because we just thought it was like the best stuff. But so she started doing that there. And then when we moved down here, she got into doing different types of art and doing some paintings. We did a couple pieces of furniture down here. One of the cool things, my favorite thing that she does, is that when I change my strings, she takes my old strings and makes jewelry out of it. So she makes rings, necklaces, earrings, bracelets, all kinds of stuff out of them. And she adds, crystals and all kinds of stuff. So they look really pretty. And of course, she cleans them really well. But I still like to say that there's a little bit of my DNA in there, because I sweat on it. My skin cells have got to be in there. They've got to be. So I think that she should be selling these things for like $100, but they're extremely cheap. She sells them for like $15-$20. Some of these things, a pair of earrings or a bracelet or whatever. So I think it's way undervalued because it has Tyler James DNA involved. So that's all I'm saying about that. All her stuff is available at Gypsy Beach Treasured Creations here in St. Andrews. And you can also follow her on social media. Instagram, she is a Bohemian Funk 850. Now you can see a lot of her stuff. She's been doing these really cool shirts that you can use as like beach cover-ups. So she'll take like a men's button down, a larger button down, and then she's finding these cool T-shirts.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so like maybe like band shirts or just something with a cool design on it, and she'll cut that out and make a patch, and then she's also doing like a bleach tie-dye on the shirts themselves before putting the patch on it. So she's making these really cool ones. She did one, Hope Woods, our friend from Woods the Band, the Woods family.
The momager?
The momager. She just got a denim jacket that Kelsey did with this really cool, it was a big giant tarot card patch that she put on there. So she's got some really neat stuff that you guys should definitely check out. And there's a lot of other great things in Gypsy Beach as well. Miss Kathy over there has accumulated quite the collection of artists making really neat stuff. So that's definitely a place to check out.
Awesome. Well, y'all be sure to check out Kelsey on Bohemian Funk 850 and also at Gypsy Beach. I'll be sure to link both in the description. All right. Thank you so much for being here today, and best luck to you on your travels and all the music you have coming out soon and any project you may be working on. And we look forward to having you back. And in the meantime, keep St. Andrews salty. How many of y'all graduated from Bay High? I did. I have some fond memories of being in the $1 Million Band, getting breakfast at Dandy Donuts, gaining the weight from having breakfast at Dandy Donuts, and also having some excellent teachers. One of those was Ms. Clanjack. Who else out there had Miss Clanjack? One thing I don't remember was having a Miss Bay High. This week's old news segment comes from the Panama City Pilot from March 5th in 1934, and this is called Miss Bay High is Selected. I hope you enjoyed this one. On Thursday, March 29th, at 3 o'clock, closed a most interesting and remunerative contest to see who should wear the title of Miss Bay High for the remainder of this school year. When the votes had been counted, it was seen that a freshman girl, Daisy Lee Richborg of St. Andrews, was the winner. Many who had been in the school the whole year had never seen her, and everyone was most anxious to get a glimpse of the new queen. She is a girl of most charming personality, quiet, dignified, and very modest. She is on the honor roll, and her teachers pronounce her a model student. We congratulate her and her class in putting her over. We are sure this honor, which is a rather unusual as a senior has usually taken the honor in previous years, will not cause this lovely person to get a big head. The money from the contest will be used to buy a loving cup for Miss Bay High and to buy keys for the student council. Thank you so much for listening to episode 22 of the St. Andrews Jezebel podcast. We now have a Facebook page and an Instagram account. The pages will share when future episodes will be published and more information regarding the growth of the podcast. I hope you'll visit these pages and you'll show your support by liking, following, and sharing the pages with all your salty friends. Before I head off, I need to mention that I'm hoping to share all kinds of public events. If you're having a yard sale or you'd like me to help you promote a special happening, please DM the podcast on Facebook, or you can always send me an email. My email address is ashley.feller@gmail.com, and this podcast is now available to stream on Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, CastBox, and Google Podcasts. I'd like to thank everyone again who has subscribed and shared the podcast with all their salty friends and family. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Thank you everyone again for supporting this effort. The intro music was written by me and recorded by Dave Schwartz at Boundless Sounds on the campus of Gulf Coast State College. The show was recorded by me in my music room. Till next time, keep St. Andrews salty.
'Cause she's a Jezebel, St. Andrew Jezebel. 'Cause she's a Jezebel, St. Andrew Jezebel.